I think I'm good. I think I'm set. Everything's kind of configured in a way that makes sense to me, and yeah. All right. So, performance anxiety, stage fright, all that type of stuff, right? It tends to manifest itself in different ways depending on who you talk to about it. Some ways that it affected me was just the general idea of being nervous for something. And that can be like, for lack of a better term, like sweaty palms, as Eminem so eloquently described mom spaghetti. It can manifest itself in a bunch of different ways, right? But we can learn a lot about anxiety from musicians because we got to deal with this every day. Whether it be performing for a group of like 5 people to performing for a group of like 50 to 100 over, right? Everybody, especially musicians, deal with it in a different way, and it manifests itself in a different way, right? Like the ways that I get anxious or get anxiety in concerts and performances is going to be different than someone else, but there are ways that we can go about tackling that so it's a bit more manageable. Let me also make sure my volumes are okay, so I'm going to go in headphones also. The big thing to kind of understand about performance anxiety is that we have ways to control it, but to say that you can completely eliminate it from your playing is not a viable way of looking at it. You should never look at it as something like, I want this to come 100% out of my psyche, my gameplay, all that stuff. You can't 100% eliminate it. And everybody has it in a different way. For some people, it could be like literal excitement. Like they feel like, just, I guess for lack of a better term, just excited about the thing they're about to do. Or it could just be something where they start just like bursting out into tears. I have a lot of my students that have that problem. Whether it be they have the overflow of emotion right before the actual like downbeat of the thing that they're going to do, or just the pre-nervousness, like the leading up to it. Like it's going to manifest itself in a different way, but just understand that like as we go through this today, we're not looking to eliminate it entirely. We're just looking to find ways to control it. So when we're in the moment, we don't have to worry about forgetting the bread and butter that we've been doing for 2.5 years. It's almost like that happened to me before. Or even something for me, right? Like during my senior recital, this was like, I think 3-4 years ago. I forgot my entire encore piece. The encore. I was done. Like I did the performance, I did the thing, excuse me, not encore, my last piece. Like, and in terms of my rep, the last piece that I did was the easiest piece of the entire program. It was the most flashy, but it was the easiest one, and I forgot the entire fucking thing. Did I get through it? Yeah. But like the whole time, my brain was just like, this is a fire. Everything's on fire. I mean, obviously, I did some of the things that I'm going to talk about today, which helped for sure. But it's just going to manifest itself in a different way for every person. So keep that in mind as we navigate through this. And if you have like a story that you want to share, whether it be in chat or even in the comments, because I think I'm going to post this on YouTube, hopefully, if it stays safe for work. So we'll put it up in other places for people who don't usually wake up before 10 a.m. because I'm a crazy person. All right, so everything that I'm going to talk about today comes from a bunch of different sources. The primary source is going to be from a bunch of books that I've read about it that were either recommended to me from my instructors or just books that are from either the psychology community or the performance community. There's a bunch of books. A lot of them kind of harken the same thing and just talk about it through different examples, right? Another resource are just books from other fields that have nothing to do with music, but still have to deal with performance anxiety. So I have a bunch of books I've read that talk about performance anxiety as it relates to being like a Navy SEAL or in the Army. I have a few really good ones from firefighters. Apparently, they seem to write really godlike books about this subject. Because other professions have performance anxiety, right? It's not just exclusive to being a musician or being in fighting games or playing fighting games. Like, everybody deals with it in some capacity. Now, for fighting game players or players that play competitive games, we have this weird sort of, I guess you would say, task of being on for essentially a very short period of time and having to maintain that level across a 2 out of 3 set, 3 out of 5, or even a long exhibition. So I had a point there and I lost it. So I guess the general speaking is that it's coming from a lot of different places. But mainly through books that I've read, things that teachers suggested to me that's worked for me, or just generally from just researching the topic of myself and trying to understand like how the body deals with stress and anxiety. With that in mind, let's try to get this ball rolling. So I have like a couple things here that are kind of the simplest ones, because I kind of wanted to keep this stream or whatever I talk about today as simple as possible, because we can get really abstract about each topic and talk about it for hours, yada, yada, yada. But it doesn't, I don't want to get this too like hippy dippy, nerdy, dirty. So I just want to make it to like the most simplest things that we can do in order to help us deal with performance anxiety. Anyway, so I'll put some examples that I did as we go. Playing in front of others is, I don't want to say it's one of the best ways of us for dealing with performance anxiety, because it's multiple sides to this coin, right? But it's one that I definitely would strongly suggest you try to do. Now, what's up, you? In fighting games, it's difficult, right? Because we are not everybody's in the same type of environment or position to play in front of others. Meaning we have a good ecosystem for it. I don't want to get that sort of like misconstrued or screwed in what I'm saying. But for some people, it's very hard. It's hard to go out and play in front of others. And what I mean by in front of others, I mean like physically going out there and playing around other people and being around other people. For fighting games, general, and using that as obviously the compassed example, we're looking to put ourselves into the environment that we're going to eventually have to perform in when things like money are on the line, things like the fancy stick that they're giving out at your local Microsoft store in mind. Like, you're looking for as many opportunities to play in front of other people. Now, we're kind of lucky that streams have kind of, I don't want to say they've blown up obviously, but they're definitely an easy way for us to at least try to play in front of others. Obviously, there's things that come into consideration that we have no control over, right? Like the number of people who watch your stream, the people who interact with your stream about your gameplay, all that type of stuff, right? But I would say if you can't go out and play in front of others, streaming helps a lot as well. And I know some players who talked about growing their audience on Twitch or just getting better in fighting games, they mentioned somewhere around there streaming. But generally speaking, you want to try your best to play in front of other people. Now, does that mean you have to go to your local? I mean, maybe. It wouldn't hurt. But I would say even if you just go to a local tournament just to look for sets with other people, that's incredibly helpful, you know? I'm not saying that it's going to 100% cure everything, but it's definitely going to be something that's going to help you in the long run. Because again, we're looking to expose ourselves to the thing that we're eventually going to have to do and be very on in a short period of time. For musicians, I know one of my teachers, a couple of years ago was a savage. So what she ended up having me doing, which was really helpful, because I was running into a lot of anxiety at the time, she just had me perform in front of strangers at random places. So we would have lessons like in the middle, right by the train station by my house. We'd have lessons like in front of a Panera Bread that she co-owned because she's a savage. We did it in a bunch of different places so that I was used to the idea of strangers listening to me play, because that was something that I struggled with and like about for a good amount of time up until the point before I started studying with her. And I didn't understand why, because for the longest time I was really on in terms of my performance anxiety, and I was like really good with managing that, and then it kind of manifested itself randomly. So yeah, I would say playing in front of others is one that's really, really helpful. It goes without saying, but we have to be prepared for the things that we're looking to do, which means we gotta practice. Now, there are ways of practicing more optimally, I think is the word I'm looking for, or better, but I'm not going to talk about that type of stuff. It's not what we're trying to do today. But being as prepared as you can help with performance anxiety. Now, are we going to be 100% prepared for every single event or every single thing that we do? God, no, it's impossible. Like, even take a game like Street Fighter. Street Fighter has what, like 20 plus characters? It's unrealistic to think that every person, or a person who is a tournament competitor, even at the highest level, knows the intricacies of every single matchup. Maybe some do. I'm not saying that players don't, but if you went across the board around top players in any game and just interviewed them about matchups, and like you got character specialists and they're talking about the specifics of every little thing, they're not going to know everything. However, we can prepare to the best that we can. I think for fighting games, definitely looking into metagames could help you being prepared. But again, like, I don't want to talk about preparedness of or how we should practice. It's a totally different subject. But in terms of performance anxiety, being prepared is probably one of the most number one or number two ways that we can help for us to deal with it. Because by being prepared, that can kind of control performance anxiety in of itself sometimes. Because if we do the thing, whatever it is that we have to do beforehand, and really understand the in and outs of it beforehand, when we get into a moment of whether it be stage fright or anxiety or nervousness, we don't have to rely on a part of our body that might be shutting down at the moment. So being prepared kind of goes hand in hand with practicing the visualization of what you're doing. So when I talk to my students about committing something to their mind, what I mean is that when you want to visualize what you're doing before you're doing it. So that can be something as simple as visualizing the bread and butter combo that you're looking to do, or visualizing the extension of your normal so it connects with your opponent. It could be a bunch of different things, but the big thing is that if you visualize it, you're dedicating it to a different part of your body, because a lot of people think that it's just the muscle memory of the thing that allows you to execute the thing. But it's a bit more complicated than that, because you have to also commit it to your mind. Because if it's not in your brain and just in your fingers, it's really dangerous. Because when you're performing, whether it be through music, whether it be in a fighting game, in an esport, all those other things, it's not just a executionary thing. It's also sort of a collaborative effort between what your hands do and what your brain does. So actively practicing visualizing what you want to do before you do it can really help. That can even help with your execution when you're working on stuff, like visualizing your hand doing that standing 720, or visualize your hand doing that piano input, like whatever it may be. Like visualizing what you want to do can help with your anxiety in the moment, because again, you don't want to rely solely on your muscle memory to get the job done. Side to side with that, I guess we are talking a little bit about practice and being prepared, is whatever exercises you want to use to help deal with your anxiety, you want to incorporate that into your practice. So something I see a lot of players do, and it's really noticeable if you kind of like pay attention to it, is that we have a bunch of breathing exercises that we can do to practice relaxing ourselves. There's different exercises, but different exercises we can do to help relax our muscles, yada, yada, yada. But if we don't incorporate that in our practice, when we go into the performance, it's still going to feel alien to us. So something that you want to strongly consider, is when you are thinking about incorporating breathing into your practice, incorporate the use of a item in your practice, whether it be something like a water bottle, because we can talk about taking our stress and putting it to a different point. That's a totally different thing. But like any activity that you do in a practice situation to help you calm down, you should do it in practice. That made no sense. Let me rephrase that. If there's an exercise you want to do, if there's a breathing exercise you want to do, muscle exercise, whatever it is, you want to incorporate it into your practice actively and not just keep it exclusively to your performance itself. I see a lot of players who go into different types of breathing exercises when they play, different hand exercises when they play, and stuff like that. And their body language doesn't suggest that they're not that helped at all. And in some ways it makes them more nervous. So if you don't, my point is, if you don't drink water when you play in tournaments, don't make the tournament the one time that you start drinking water in between sets, because it's not part of your natural routine. Obviously, you want to stay hydrated, and like we always talk about hydration. Anyway, I want to rant about hydration, but if you want to start incorporating just drinking water and staying hydrated, incorporate that in your practice so it doesn't feel alien when you're in the tournament setting performing. Because if you're used to having, for instance, like a cup of tea next to you, and every like in between each set, like you like take a sip, or even like somewhere within the set, you remind yourself, oh, let me take a sip of water, let me take a sip of tea. That's easier for your body to internalize in practice. So when you're in the tournament and you grab your bottle of water, which you don't even know where you put it because it's never next to you because it's all electronics everywhere, right? So you're like digging around there trying to find it. It's not going to feel alien to you, because a lot of times if you don't incorporate the thing in practice, it's going to feel weird in performance. That's why, like, if you see somebody like, I'm going to try this new Strider combo I learned before the tournament started, it's not going to come out the way you want it to. It's going to come out the way you put it in. But anyway, breathing and stretching beforehand helps, but making sure that it's part of your routine all the time, not just in a tournament setting, is going to help really just internalize that thing and make it easier for you to execute that thing in a stressful situation. And that's another way that can help distract you from maybe the thing that's giving you a lot of stress. If this is going to sound a little hippy-dippy, but remembering what motivates you can help in a performance situation. It could be something like, it could be anything, like whatever motivates you. Sometimes it's important to remind yourself that before the performance, and even sometimes during the performance. We're in a weird situation in fighting games where a lot of the intentions that people might feel like they're selfish. But again, you want to still just remind yourself what those motivations are. Because as a musician, right, my motivation is that I'm giving a product, whether it be essentially my art, to somebody who wants to see it. Like, no one's going to a performance to not see you play, you know? So like my motivation is a lot less personal. But in fighting games, it's weird because like we're looking to do well for things like sponsorships and esports money, and winning the tournament. But even then, just reminding yourself why you're there can help distract you from whatever the thing is that's giving you anxiety. So like if getting hit by a Armika 50-50 is tilting your head to the moon, just reminding yourself that I'm not here to get tilted by Armika 50-50. I'm here to win the tournament. You know, like I'm here like to win the tournament, like, or like whatever it may be. I can't think of a good example in that regard. But just remembering what your motivation is incredibly helpful. This is tough, and I get it. But when you're at an event or preparing for an event, whatever it is, you want to stay focused at all times. You also want to eliminate distractions. And I totally get it. Like tournaments, there's so much going on. The frilly frill of like everybody just, you know, the frill of the button clicking, people yelling at their friends, seeing people you haven't seen in a really long time. The list can go on and on and on. But the big thing is that you want to stay focused and eliminate distractions. But you also want to actively practice eliminating those distractions when you practice. So if you're used to checking your phone in between matches at home, that's going to manifest in your gameplay at tournaments. So like if you see somebody like checking their phone after every single tournament, like they're like after every match, they're just like checking Twitter or do whatever they gotta do. That's something they do in their practice. It's not something just that magically manifested itself in the tournament setting. My point is you want to just eliminate distractions. What the distractions can be anything. The distraction can be running sets. Like, hey, you want to play some games? You just hit him with the nah. Like, nah, man, my pool starts in an hour. And it's like, oh, but that's an hour from now. And it's like, whatever. Just don't participate in the distractions that may appear, because they're gonna be everywhere, right? When for me, and again, this is gonna be different for every person, but when you're looking to, for lack of a better term, get ready, I personally set about 2 hours before, or really not even that. Like pretty much once I wake up, I'm thinking about staying focused to the thing that I'm looking to do. So if I'm at a tournament and I'm looking to do well in pools, or my pools are that day, when I wake up, that's my number one priority. My number one priority is pools. Nothing else matters. That's a lot of the reasons why, if you guys know me from tournaments, I don't run sets with anyone ever. I'm already like stretching. I'm already trying to like sort of do some last minute touches of just reminding myself like, okay, who's in my pool? When does my pool start? Stuff like that. Because again, like you don't want anything that doesn't have to do with the thing you have to do at that given time to make itself into your day. I have a big thing when I'm going to, whether it be a tournament, whether it be a private event that I'm DJing for, even for work, I have this big thing of not checking my phone, but like an hour or so before and an hour or so after the thing that I'm doing. Like I don't check my phone at all. And I don't let like anything else from the outside get into the way of that. So if I wake up in the morning and someone says, hey, do you want to get breakfast with me? I'm gonna say no. Or if it's like, hey Joe, do you wanna go for the walk? The beach is really nice today. You want to go to the beach before pools today? I mean, no. Like, get used to saying no to the distractions when you're looking to prepare for something, get ready for something, because your focus should start the moment you wake up for the thing. Some people can allot, I was going to say that you can allot like 2 hours before to get ready. But I think it's better to find out what works for you. For me, what works is once I wake up, I'm already thinking about the thing and I'm focused on the thing. Now, maybe for you, that could be 2 hours before, or maybe it's 4 hours before, but maybe it's the day before, whatever it is. But just finding the time that works for you is going to be very helpful. And again, I can't stress it enough. Eliminating distractions. Just eliminate them. And it's so simple, right? Like, something that you can do that can help eliminate this distraction in tournaments is just taking it and just putting it in your bag where it can never be shown in the light of day again. Eliminating distractions helps so much. Now, there are different ways that we can work on breathing. And like I said earlier, like, it's best and optimal to work on those things in practice. So practicing breathing exercises in practice. Practice muscle relaxation drills, like the shoulder one. Like I do this thing called a yoga with my marching band students, which is a progressive stretching exercise that relaxes every point of the body. That helps too. But different types of muscle relaxation exercises and breathing exercises can help you in your performance. Also, pay attention to your body. Like, sometimes when we're in a stressful situation, like you're trying to prepare yourself for the incoming 50-50 mix-up because you got knocked down against Rashid in the corner and you're not really too sure what he's going to do next. And then your shoulders just gradually and ever so surely get higher and higher. And then at the end of the tournament or at the end of the match, you're like, yeah, I won. And it's like, why are my shoulders all the way up here? Like, when we're in a stressful moment, our body likes to tense up. And when you're in practice, just reminding yourself that tension exists and releasing it can be really helpful. And also just checking yourself in practice and even in performance of taking a beat and just being like, okay, where is there tension in my body? Where do I feel the tension? And then just practice releasing it. And there's a bunch of ways that we can do different muscle and breathing exercises. In interest of time, I'll try my best to put them in the description because, again, it's probably gonna end up on YouTube. I'm probably not gonna really edit this either. But when you're in the moment, right, and you feel your body start tensing up, in the in-between of a match, practice just doing whatever muscle exercise or stretch exercise that you should be practicing already at home so that you could just find a way to release that. But again, you never really want to incorporate breathing or stretches in your routine if they're not part of your routine in practice. So when you're first looking to incorporate new things, especially when you're dealing with performance anxiety, you want to make sure that you practice them at home first and put them into your routine. So if you don't check your phone in a tournament, you shouldn't be checking it when you practice. If you are looking to add breathing exercises, don't do it the day of pools because they're not going to work the best way. Do it when you're at home practicing. So like in between matches, doing different breathing exercises, stretching before and after you play. It's another really important thing because again, with stretching, it's going to relieve that stress that might end up being in your body. Again, I wanted to keep these fairly simple. I hope I did, but I guess if we're looking for the bullet points, playing in front of others as much as possible, the overarching yet abstract idea of being prepared, visualizing what you want to do before you do it, breathing and stretching exercises beforehand, with the caveat, or I guess the sidebar, of making sure that's part of your everyday routine and not just within your performance. Remembering what your motivation is, that was the hippy dippy one. Staying focused before and after, and then like eliminating distractions in the performance, and again, those before and after the performance, I should say. And again, those can manifest itself in different ways. There could be people asking you for sets. That could be people like trying to take your time, whether it be for food or a conversation, whatever it is. Just eliminating distractions, and then just actively practicing releasing tension. And that kind of goes hand in hand with doing different types of stretch exercises and stuff like that. Yeah, those are kind of all the bullet points I wanted to talk about. This will be on YouTube. I think I said that for the 4th time now. Yeah, thanks for you guys for coming through, who are watching the stream, and thanks for those who might end up watching this and it might be helpful to you. Helpful to you.